Welcome back, everybody. I hope you managed to grab a cuppa and have had a healthy mid-morning snack to fuel you with energy to go into our final session for the conference this morning. My name is Beth and I am the Group Networks Manager here at the Stroke Association and chair of this fantastic event. Our next session is all about how support groups can help members to recognise and live well with the hidden effects of stroke. As with all of our sessions for the conference, this one is also jam-packed with some fantastic speakers. So you will hear from Josh Murphy, who is our Stroke Knowledge Development Lead here at the Stroke Association. And then we have Laurie and Louise, who are both group volunteers from England, and Louise up in Scotland. And they're going to bring their experience of living with the hidden effects of stroke to you today, as well as explaining how they use that experience to help them to support others in their group. You will also hear from Amanda, who is the Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at Guide Dogs. We're very lucky to have her here today, who will share some tips on supporting members with vision impairments. So without further ado, I want to welcome Josh and Laurie to take us into this final session. Thank you. Over to you, Josh and Laurie.
Lovely. Thank you, Beth. Yeah, let's have those slides back up, shall we? Delighted to have the opportunity to speak to you all today. As mentioned by Beth, I'm the Stroke Knowledge Development Lead at the Stroke Association, which means I'm primarily responsible for all staff and volunteer stroke-specific training. Delighted to have the opportunity to deliver this session to you today. I'm a speech and language therapist by background, and I've been at the Stroke Association for 11 years now. And my first 5 or 6 years in post was in coordinator roles where I was helping to facilitate groups as well. Over to you, Laurie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laurie. I lead the Nailsy Stroke Survivors group, and I had a stroke back in 2011. And I'm here today to share some of my experiences of the hidden effects we're going to talk about today and how we try to support our members in Nailsy. I also wanted to mention that I am one of the only people who's worn the t-shirt. My volunteers t-shirt is well on, and I'm very proud of it. And the reason I wore it was because it made me feel like I was going out to work today. And it made me feel like I've got a sense of purpose. And that was something I lost when I had my stroke. So I love my t-shirt, and I wear it with pride. Back to you, Josh.
Thank you, Laurie. Looks fab on you. Okay, then let's have the next slide then, please. Let's make a start then by thinking about the hidden effects of stroke. So while some effects of stroke, like facial drooping, paralysis down one side of the body and slurred speech, are obvious for others to see, many effects, which might be equally disabling, can be much harder to see. And that's what we're going to explore in this session. As these effects are hidden, stroke survivors don't always get the help and understanding they might need in order to manage those difficulties. Now, our stroke groups pride themselves on understanding their members and always putting their needs first. And this session should help you to recognise and understand the hidden effects of stroke so that you can offer help and support with those needs in group settings. Next slide. Okay, so there are numerous hidden effects of stroke, and I'm sure there are others you guys can think of as well. But with the time that we've got today, we're going to focus in on 5 common ones, which we know can affect stroke survivors' experience of a support group. So let's have our first one then, fatigue. I'm sure some of you have been personally affected by stroke will know this one all too well. It's that excessive and overwhelming sense of tiredness that very often doesn't improve with sleep or rest. Next up, we've got the emotional effects of stroke, so issues around low mood, depression, and emotional lability, which is sometimes called emotionalism. And that's a difficulty regulating your emotions. So that person might have difficulties whereby they're kind of laughing uncontrollably one moment and then they're crying the next. I always remember I was running a stroke group once, and a lady burst into tears because we'd only got skimmed milk rather than semi-skimmed milk. And she was fighting through the tears, desperately trying to tell me that actually she's really not that bothered about the milk. It's just that even the smallest thing could set her off since her stroke. So that's emotional lability. Next up, we've got memory and thinking problems or cognitive difficulties. So any problems with attention, so that ability to selectively focus on things, memory, perception, which is about making sense of our senses. So recognizing the things that we see, tastes that we might be experiencing, smells and sounds as well. So it's recognizing, processing and understanding our senses. And you've got problem solving as well there. We've then got visual problems. Particularly common effect of stroke, around 60% of people who have a stroke experience some level of visual disturbance. Now, prevalence of that does drop to around 20% at 3 months, but that's obviously still a very considerable proportion of stroke survivors who will have more long-standing visual problems. And then finally, we've got pain. So any issues with long-term pain, so issues with muscle and joint pain, those more musculoskeletal pain issues, but also this thing called neuropathic pain as well. And if you've not come across that before, that's pain that derives from damage to the nervous system. So this is pain that derives, in the case of stroke, from damage to the parts of the brain involved in perceiving pain, perceiving sensation. And that can manifest itself in more of a kind of electrical type pain, numbness, tingling, pins and needles, more of an icy burning sensation. So those are the focus of our 5 hidden effects in this session. But Laurie, I just thought I'd invite you to come in here. I know that problems with fatigue, memory and thinking, and also visual problems are all things you've struggled with since your stroke. Would you like to tell us a little bit about how those affected you in group settings?
Well, definitely. So extreme fatigue has been a big problem for me since my stroke and continues to be so. And actually, I think it's starting to get worse. I wake up tired. I go to arrive at group tired and leave feeling absolutely shattered. As the morning progresses, I start to lose concentration and forget words. I need a good sleep every afternoon, and long trips are just not possible for me. Even an online conference will exhaust me, and I'm not that far off the need for my afternoon sleep already. My memory post-stroke is now very short term, and I forget names, facts, dates. Though amazingly, I can sometimes remember the name of a member from 10 years ago. This is really difficult for me to deal with. The number of people who say, "You must remember surely." Well, no, I don't, otherwise I might have said so. Everything takes so much longer now, so much longer. Because post-stroke, I've forgotten how to do things such as logging on or remembering a password or how to update things or access a document. All things that came so naturally before my stroke, back in the days when I could multitask with ease. I can't multitask nowadays. My visual problems actually only started in recent years and have been very much linked to my stroke. My sight in the right eye is blurred and I have limited visual field. I found myself winking at people, which it got really embarrassing, and I've had struggles with my driving. The effect that's had on my confidence, it's been really enormous. So yeah, I would say there have been lots of hidden effects following my stroke that not everybody always understands.
Thank you for sharing those, Laurie. Some really interesting ones that people might not have thought of there, but again, might resonate with some people if you've been personally affected by stroke on the call. But all things that we're going to think today about, how can we better support those needs within a group setting? Thank you, Laurie. I'll come back to you again shortly. So next slide, please. So we're going to think about how you can support your members' hidden effects of stroke using a 3-step process, starting with step 1 then. Next slide. Identify their needs. So your group is a place where people affected by stroke should feel safe and comfortable to talk about any issues affecting their health and well-being. Now, much of what you might benefit from knowing about your members can often be found out by just having good, rich conversations with the members themselves, as well as, of course, their family members or carers as well. Encouraging members to discuss any difficulties they're having and just really listening is, of course, going to be a great place to start when trying to identify their needs. You might also observe or notice little changes in behaviour or little signs that someone might be struggling a little bit too. And then you've got your membership forms as well. Best practice is also to use membership forms to capture this sort of information. So if you don't already capture information about needs as part of that membership process, then including those relating to the hidden effects of stroke and putting that within your membership forms could be really, really useful thing to consider going forward. Also, when it comes to getting that information filled in, really encourage your members to fill it in with as much detail as possible about their needs. As long as they're obviously happy to share that with others, and actually use that information. Make sure that your volunteers and people who are supporting with the group are aware of that in order to provide the best support to those members. Don't forget as well, the needs of members may also change. So it's always a good idea to check in with members at regular intervals, just in case their needs have indeed changed. So I wanted to come back to you at this point, Laurie. I know that getting to know your members is something you feel particularly strongly about. Would you like to come in here?
Yes, Josh. A lot of the things you've just said, knowing my members is actually critical to me, and I can't express the importance of reading the membership forms enough. There is so many bits of useful information on those forms, and I'm not sure we all read them properly and let it sink in. When they're first handed out, I go through them with new members to emphasize the importance of sharing as much information they feel comfortable with to ensure we can support them. When they return the form, I then go through page 2 with them to ensure I understand what they need. Then I ensure the volunteers know, and we use the information to ensure we are helping out as much as possible. We discuss members at our regular volunteers meetings to ensure we've shared things we've become aware of or spotted or just watched going on. Where possible, we do discuss with carers and loved ones to see if there's more we should know or could do to help. We try to refresh the membership forms on a regular basis, preferably annually, and have in the past had Know Your Members sessions with the volunteers where we discuss each individual and what we can do above and beyond to help and support. And we probably need to do that more often, but we don't always get it right. For example, one of my recent new members had noted on her membership form that she had a visual problem, and I just hadn't particularly noted it or taken it on board. And it was only after a couple of meetings that she asked if her activity sheets could be in a larger font so that would help her see them properly. Luckily, she felt confident enough to tell me, but I know there are others who might not feel confident. So it's now on my to-do list to go through all those membership forms again to see if there's anything else I've missed. I've been club leader at Nelsey for many years, and I'm only now getting to the point of knowing, and I mean really knowing, my members and their families. They're now very much friends.
Love that, Laurie. And I love that idea of refreshing your membership forms on an annual basis, and even perhaps having a little session dedicated to making sure everyone who's a part of helping support that group.
It is a great idea, Josh. Sometimes it's on a to-do list which goes a little bit, beyond the year, and I think, oh my God, has 2 years really gone by? But I do try. It is
Brilliant tip, though.
It is on the I would like to do form.
Great stuff. Okay, next slide, please. So step 2 of our 3-step process is understand their needs. So in order to meet the needs of our members, we need to first understand them. And that's where a session like this, of course, comes in. But there's obviously lots of information about the various hidden effects of stroke on our website and in our fact sheets. And we'll point you in the direction of various other resources which might be helpful too. Do also draw upon your personal experience of supporting people affected by stroke. What's worked well in the past? What hasn't worked so well? And if you've been personally affected by stroke, of course, draw upon your personal experiences too. If you've been personally affected, what did you find helpful, or perhaps not? Okay, next slide, please. So the final step is, of course, step 3, meet their needs. Now, meeting the needs of your members doesn't have to be a big task, folks. Even simple changes can make a huge difference. And we're going to explore in the next few slides some of the tips and strategies that might be helpful for people who have some of the hidden effects of stroke we've mentioned already today. But these are just some more general tips for you to be aware of. Now, although we're going to talk through some things that might be helpful, rather than making assumptions, let's regularly seek that feedback from members about what's helpful or not for them. Also, including members when deciding and planning the activities you're going to do can really just help to ensure they work for as many people as possible. If a member seems perhaps quiet, distracted, not themselves, maybe follow up with them at an appropriate time, perhaps at the end of a group or when you've got a little bit more privacy, just to check how they're managing and if there's anything about the way the group is operating that isn't very helpful for them. And then we've got group values or principles. Now, these are sometimes called ground rules. People have all sorts of different names for these, but co-creating with members a set of group values or principles can help to get buy-in when trying to promote certain behaviours at a group. They can provide just that gentle reminder of what's acceptable, supportive behaviour. And some of those ground rules or values or principles, they might actually or specifically relate to supporting some of these hidden effects of stroke too. Finally, it's important to remember that you're not expected to have all of the answers, and often it's just about being able to signpost more appropriate information and support if needed for whatever their need might be. Next slide, please. Oh, tell a lie. I'm going to come back to you at this stage, Laurie. I've got another question for you here. What are some of the ways then your group supports members who might be affected by some of the hidden effects of stroke we've talked about today then, Laurie?
Yeah, because I think we can all be guilty of spotting the clear signs of disability, but also there are so many hidden effects we need to be mindful of. And I try to ensure we're aware of these and help support our volunteers and our members. Firstly, and probably most importantly, is to ask people what they want. They've had strokes, or we've had strokes, but we still have opinions on what we like and dislike. And then I try to deliver that, although it's not always possible when they ask for something way, way beyond me. I make sure there is information shared and available at group on the Stroke Association information leaflets, the guides, the fact sheets, and these are regularly discussed so that members don't feel that they are alone with the things that they are experiencing. We also have communication aids on each table for those with aphasia. I've shared details of the hidden disabilities lanyards that I am wearing, and they're all available in the major supermarkets, and they've been a great help for me. It's a great way to let people know you've got a hidden disability. There's no need to say what the disability is. The lanyard should be more than enough. But mine does say, you can't probably read it, but it does say, I have had a stroke. These are the ways you can help me. We have our meetings and most of our trips in the morning, so the afternoon nap is not disturbed. We provide a we provide a quiet space at the meeting venue, just in case someone needs to rest. And we watch people, so we're mindful of who might be struggling that day and need a little bit of extra care and attention, a little bit of one-on-one. We have memory and thinking activities, which includes a gentle exercise routine, which is repetitive, and it makes it easier to remember. And it certainly makes it easier for me to remember when I'm leading it. Discussions on past experiences and holidays, memory games on pictures and items hidden under a sheet that we have to try and remember what we saw. Crosswords, word searches, lots and lots of things to exercise those brains. We all wear name badges. I can't remember where mine is now, but we all wear name badges so we don't keep having to check on somebody's name. And these are particularly helpful for volunteers who have had strokes themselves. To help those with visual difficulties, we ensure their seat is positioned in the correct place, which is best for them to see others and to actually connect with the group. For example, if sight in one eye is impaired, like mine, then it's best that others are on my left. So you know, you're above me, Josh, at the moment on my screen, so I'm trying my best. I produce the activity forms and trip information in the bigger font or the right font, whatever works best for those members. There is always more we can do. Hopefully we do meet the needs of the members at Nailsy Stroke Club really well. But I did love, I think it was Julie yesterday, who mentioned about at the person's first meeting, she spends the whole time with them. And I thought that was a great idea that I've never thought of doing before. And I will definitely take forward. So I think sharing those ideas between ourselves is a great way of making all our clubs so much more better.
Excellent. Fantastic job, Laurie. Yeah, loads of really useful tips there, particularly like just a couple there around, the use of name badges is going to be really helpful for people with memory difficulties, but that quieter space too. Love that as well. Excellent. Well, you're going to stick around for questions at the end. Thank you, Laurie.
Yes, I will.
Let's have the next slide then, and we'll just run through some tips relating to some of those more specific hidden effects we've touched on today. So fatigue, first and foremost then. Do consider the time, duration, location, and even accessibility of the group. How helpful or not is that going to be in terms of these issues of that overwhelming tiredness? Look out for those signs of fatigue. So little signs like red eyes, drowsiness, irritability, maybe even worsening communication could all be reasons why we might want to just check in with that individual if they're happy to carry on, or whether or not they might want to have a little bit of time to rest. Empowering members to say no if they feel too tired, be it no to turning up to the group one week or no to participating in an activity, making sure everyone feels comfortable and able to do that. And incorporating regular breaks before and after any activities, and of course giving people extra time as well. Okie doke then. So I'm going to play you a short video now as we look at our next hidden effect of stroke, the emotional effects. It's just under 4 minutes, folks, and it's from a lady called Louise, a young stroke survivor and former nurse who now runs a stroke online cafe and young stroke survivors group in Scotland. This is Louise, folks.
I had a stroke 8 years ago. I was 31. I felt so low, so depressed, so sad, so very, very lonely, because I felt like nobody understood me, nobody was knew how I was feeling, nobody knew what to say to me. And at my very, very lowest point, I did contact the Stroke Association and join their online cafe. I was very nervous to join the cafe because I was so unsure of how I would be greeted. But I was pleasantly surprised. They were so welcoming, they were so kind towards me. They were they showed so much empathy, and there was no pushiness for me to share my story. It was just a lovely, welcoming cafe, and when I did share my story, they were so kind to me. The cafe had given me that much power back and that much confidence back that I felt like I could be a volunteer and help others that might have been feeling how I was feeling. And I now run a Thursday morning cafe that I'm always welcome to, that I try my best to be supportive, and I try my best to help them share their story and help them in any way I can. I try to make sure the cafe is a very welcoming, supportive, positive base, even though we do discuss things that when people are feeling low and when they are feeling a wee bit sad. Me and the members try our best to give them a bit of positivity, to give them a bit, make them laugh or make them smile. That's my main game. I don't put any pressure on anybody to share their stories if they're new. And if you get to know the members, because I do have my regulars that attend every second Thursday, and if I feel one of them's not being as their usual self, whether they're being a bit quiet when they're normally dead chatty and they're normally dead positive, I will follow up with them. I will send them a wee email just asking if they're okay and if there's anything I can do to help them. We do have some house rules in terms of just be supportive, be kind. If you want to speak and put your hand up or give me a wave if somebody else is speaking, and I'll go to you the next time. Because I feel it's important that as much as the cafe is a relaxed atmosphere, you do need to make sure that everybody that wants to have their say has their say, and that they feel that they're being listened to, and they feel that they've been supported by myself and other members. But also make them aware that there is some support that I can't give them, and that I might have to point them in an organisation that can help them if they're feeling really, really sad or really low. I'm not equipped to deal with that.
Okay, I hope you enjoyed hearing from Louise there. I think it's a powerful reminder of just how beneficial peer support is to people struggling with the emotional effects of stroke and the difference your groups are making to people's lives. So just to recap on some of Louise's tips then, try to promote your group as a safe space where members can feel comfortable sharing how they feel without fear of being judged. Follow up with members who might seem quiet, distracted, or not themselves again. Also, try to really listen first before offering up any ideas or solutions you might have of things that could help. So often, people just want to feel listened to and like you really understand what they're going through. And in doing so, you're acknowledging and validating how they're feeling first and foremost. Finally, supporting people who are feeling very low can be hard and emotionally demanding, particularly if they're going through something you've been through yourself. So don't forget to look after yourselves too. Do what you need to do to recharge following such conversations. And although you shouldn't share things that person might have told you in confidence, it might still be helpful just to chat through what it was like from your perspective, perhaps with a fellow volunteer, just that you can kind of debrief, draw a line under it, and hopefully enjoy the rest of your day. And of course, don't forget to signpost more specialist support if you think it's needed as well. Next slide, please. Okay, memory and thinking problems. Do try to minimize background noise and distractions. Not always easy in group settings, but do your best. Encourage members to be patient and give each other time to respond. Discourage members from interrupting or talking over each other. And then also splitting into smaller groups might be helpful for some people as well. Before I hand over to Amanda to talk about visual problems, I just want to conclude by talking about pain. Next slide, please. Yeah, long-standing issues with pain can certainly present themselves within group settings. So again, asking what they find helpful is really, really important. Respecting what they can and can't do. Don't forget that pain does also fluctuate considerably. So just because someone was able to do something last week, perhaps if they're struggling with discomfort or pain the following week, we need to factor that in. So yeah, doesn't matter what's happened previously. Need to support that on the day depending on how they're feeling. Regular breaks might be helpful, and ensure members feel comfortable to manage their pain without fear of judgment. So, for example, certain members might need to stand up, sit down, stretch, or maybe even withdraw themselves from an activity. And you just want to empower and enable people to do that if they need to. Okay, so I'm delighted now to introduce you to Amanda Bennett, Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at Guide Dogs. Amanda's going to tell us a little bit about how we can better support people with visual problems in group settings. Over to you, Amanda.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda Bennett. As Josh said, I'm the Head of Diversity, Equity and Inclusion at Guide Dogs, but I'm also, I have lived experience of vision impairment myself. So the things that we would always guide towards for groups are to firstly give some orientation of the building. So don't assume that you know what people need, ask them. And if they've never been before and they have a significant vision impairment, then support them to understand their way around the building. So where are the toilets, where's the kitchen, what do they need to know about the kettle if they're going to be making their own drink, or if not, where do they get drinks from? Probably most importantly, in my experience at Guide Dogs, where are the biscuits? And then make sure that they know what the room's laid out like. So are the chairs in a circle, are people sat at tables? What does the room look like? And some of that is about helping people to orientate themselves around, but it's also because it's nice to know, isn't it? So if I run a session, I might say everyone's sat in cinema style seating, and alongside that they're all wearing brightly coloured clothes because it's summer, or they're a mix of men and women and they're all smiling at us. So I would give additional information to help that person conjure up a picture of what the room's like, rather than just there's 20 people sat in here and they're all facing the front, because it just doesn't really tell you very much. Within the room, if you know that you've got people who have got low vision or no vision, then always ensure that that space is safe. So make sure you get into a habit of getting people to hang coats up on coat rails or on hangers, rather than leaving them dangling off the back of chairs. Get people to tuck handbags, and more importantly, handbag straps, right under the chair, so that they don't take someone out who's walking past. And I've come unstuck on many a handbag strap, so it's an important point. And try to make sure that there aren't trailing wires. So if you've got laptops or televisions or anything else, make sure again that the wires are tucked right under, so that people aren't going to be able to trip themselves up. So beyond that, ask people in the room to introduce themselves at the beginning, and then as they change who's speaking, so in a conversation, just to say, It's Amanda. So the way that we would do that is to, at the beginning, we would say, hi, it's Amanda, and then give some contextual information if you've met that person before. So say, hi, it's Amanda. Do you remember we met here a couple of weeks ago? Or it's Amanda, we live 2 doors down. Or to give people a bit of context, because in a day you hear a lot of people tell you their name, and it can be difficult sometimes to place them. And then as people change who's speaking, to just say it's Amanda speaking, and then to say whatever it is you want to say. Because in a group conversation, if you can't see the different faces, it can be really easy to get disorientated and then lose your place in the conversation. But people just saying who they are helps you to stay orientated within the conversation. And then some of the other tips I would give are around drinks. So if you are in a group where you make the drinks and you're handing the drinks round, then make sure you tell the person where the cup is in relation to them, whether the handle's on the left or the right. If you're using those paper cups with a plastic lid that has like a little spout on it that you drink through, make sure that when you give them the drink, the spout's facing forward. Because I've had many a ruined top where people have given me the drink and I've gone to drink and it's come flying out all over me and ended up all down the front of my top. So that's quite an important one. And again, if you're handing biscuits around, because I'm sure you probably do, then make sure you let them know what biscuits are on the plate so that they've got a choice if there is a choice, and they're not just stuck with the first one they reach out and grab, which might be something they don't like. And that's just all about making it a nicer experience. And remember as well, this is really important, that not everyone who has a vision impairment has no useful vision at all. In fact, nearly everybody who's got a vision impairment has got some level of vision. There's only 3% of people who are registered blind or severely sight impaired or sight impaired who have no vision at all. So the chances are the person that you've got there with you is going to have some level of vision. But sometimes that brings about a second set of problems. So where is it best for that person to sit? So for me, I always need the light to be behind me. If the light's in front of me, I'm going to have a really miserable time and it's not going to be easy for me in that space. So say to the person, there's some light in here, there's a big window, where is it best for you to sit? And then they're going to know the answer to that. The other things I guide you towards are sighted guide training, so you can do that via the Guide Dogs website. There's a video on there. You don't need to be an expert, but it is handy to know the kinds of things that people will find useful. And make sure that if you've got somebody coming to your group and they're a guide dog owner, that you're able to tell them where they can go so that their dog can go and we call it spending, but basically go to the loo, and also make sure there's somewhere for some water for that dog as well. And then, you know, I'm happy to answer any questions at the end. Josh is here, I can see him, so that I think means my time's up. Happy to answer any questions at the end, and just to say that you can't really offend me despite my vision impairment. I'm pretty robust, so if you've got a tricky question, feel free to ask it, and if I don't want to answer, I'll just tell you. Thanks, Josh.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Amanda. Such brilliant, useful tips there. In particular, I really like that one about, just giving some context around you as an individual when you're kind of, reintroducing yourself. Super useful. And delighted you can hang on to answer some questions at the end. Okie doke. Next slide, please. I'm just going to wrap up, folks, by sharing with you sources of some further information and support on these things. We've obviously have information on each of the hidden effects of stroke on our main Stroke Association website, but also My Stroke Guide, our online resource for people affected by stroke too. In addition, we've got a couple of guides specifically around supporting hidden effects of stroke in group settings, so you might find it useful to check them out too. And I believe links to all of these resources, together with the tips we've shared in this session, can be found by just scrolling down the window you're in right now, just below where you can see me, and clicking on the green box which says Talk Information. Okie doke, that's it from me, Laurie, Amanda. Thank you, everyone. We can open it up to questions now, I think.
Thank you, Josh. Fantastic. I was absorbed in that session absolutely completely and forgot that I was coming back on. I was learning so much. So thank you all for that. That was fantastic. As Josh says, do check out the Talk Information folder. Most of the resources are in PDF. If you need them in different formats for your screen readers, for your assistive technology, please let us know and we will sort that for you. I would love to welcome Anne back, if that's possible, to give us a little summary of what has been going on in the chat.
Thanks, Beth. I think Jamie sums it up very well. He says, "This is amazing. I've experienced all those effects after stroke. It was very frightening and nobody explained to me that it was normal. I wish I'd have known this a year ago and I wouldn't have been so scared, but all sorted now." Congratulations and well done to Laurie. You've touched on lots of details that others have experienced too. You're a true natural and we're glad to have you with us today. And then there's some sharing of ideas around keeping in touch with your group and the needs that your members have and assessing what you offer to them. So lots of tips on questionnaires and how to make those aphasia friendly. So lots of tips in there. If you want to find out anything more about that, do use the contact us button at the bottom of the screen and we can follow up and connect you with other people who are sharing ideas, and we will summarise them in a document at the end.
Amazing. Thanks, Anne. And thanks everybody for engaging as you always do in the conference. Super. Well, we do have time. We've got at least sort of 10 minutes to have a question and answer session. So I can bring back Josh, Laurie and Amanda. Unfortunately, Louise can't join us today, but it's wonderful to have the three of you back here to answer some questions or to share any more reflections that you've heard from each other as well. You're very welcome to do that. We've had a few questions come through. So there's been, you're wearing your t-shirt, Laurie, has prompted lots of questions, which is lovely. So in terms of, should we be wearing our Stroke Association t-shirts as volunteers? So obviously
mine has got volunteer written on the back, if you can see. And I love it. As I said, when I had a stroke, I actually didn't feel I wasn't able to work. I had limited capability for work, which made me cry. I thought, oh, everything's over. And when I kind of got involved with the Stroke Association and they gave me a t-shirt and a volunteer and I came in as a leader, I actually started to feel as if I was doing something important, that I was really adding worth to something. And so I wear mine quite proudly, that it does make me feel like I'm going out to work.
Absolutely.
I don't put it on every day if anybody's worried about that.
Absolutely. And I think it also shows to members that you're somebody that they can come and ask questions to and get support from and guidance. And it also shows somebody is in control. So somebody is looking after this group and knows what is happening.
We're not sure about that, but they are really good when you're going out on trips as well. Is that actually in places they know who the kind of helpers are, who the carers and support is. So that works well as well. So yeah, I'd wear it.
Yeah, super. Thank you. We had a question of where I can get t-shirts from. So obviously, if you're a Stroke Association volunteer, then do link in with your local engagement team. And the details of those teams are in the talk information area under talk 1. So have a look there and you'll find out who to contact. There was quite a few reflections and questions around membership forms, which was really helpful. So maybe a bit of perspective from you on this. We've got membership forms for Stroke Association support groups, of which Laurie uses. If you're not from a Stroke Association support group, we will share with you our membership form, or at least the themes that we cover on that form, so that you've got some best practice if you're an independently run group. Is there anything particular, Amanda, from your perspective around membership forms or understanding people's needs at guide dogs that you would like to reflect on?
Yeah, so obviously that not everybody's going to be able to read the membership form, so you need a plan B. Obviously at Guide Dogs we would offer Braille and all sorts of other things, but if somebody's got vision impairment as a result of a stroke, that's likely to be something that they've acquired in their life, so they're unlikely to be a Braille reader, because they don't go hand in hand, and it's a skill that takes a long time to learn. So for us, we would always offer people things in their preferred format. So that might be an increased font size. It might be using coloured paper. So for example, for me, I use like a turquoisey colour paper, and I can see better on that than I can on white paper. So again, it's about being person-centred and asking what works best for them. There are also certain font styles that are much easier to read than others. So again, being mindful of that. And then finally, at Guide Dogs, we would always say, if you can't write it down, then you can voice record it. We'll record it with you and we'll hold it as a voice note instead, and that's fine. Because sometimes I know myself that you go to things and people go, oh, well, I'll write it for you. And you think, I've got a vision impairment. I'm not silly. I don't need you to write it for me. There's just a format doesn't work for me. So that's also about the difference between a medical and a social model of disability. So a medical model is like, oh, you can't write this because you can't see. Whereas the social model is, you can't write it because our method of doing that is not accessible for you. So what can we do instead that can mean that you can still be empowered to take control of this yourself? So it might be a voice note. It might be that they can do it on email, but they can't do it on paper, and that's fine. So it's about being person-centered, basically.
Fantastic. Lots of wealth of information there that I'm sure people will be scribbling down in their yellow notebooks. Or if you are needing to catch up on this session, the recordings will be on the platform tomorrow. The recordings from the day yesterday are already on the platform. So if you need to rewatch this session to catch with some of these tips, then that will be available for you. I'm just thinking, are there any other questions? Are there any other reflections that you have, Josh, Laurie, or Amanda, hearing from each other, or anything particular that you want to point out before we log off?
Go on, Laurie, you go first.
Sorry, Josh. I think I shared earlier on about what Julie had said and how it really, I thought, I've never even thought of that. I really had. And so straight down, and I thought, yes. And that, so one of the importance of a stroke club conference is very much about that sharing of information. And we should share much, much more information between, whether it's in your local groups or in your area, your region, and actually what works, because I've learned a lot, and I hope that sharing some of the things I do will help others. So sharing information.
Absolutely.
Back to you, Josh.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I was reflecting on when I was running groups as a coordinator a good few years back now, but when I was doing that for the first time, I think on reflection, I was taking quite a reactive approach. So I'd respond to needs and issues relating to the hidden effects of stroke as they arose, particularly around problems with attention, pain, and even visual problems as well. So I'd notice a problem, or someone would share one, and then I'd obviously do my best to mitigate that going forward. But on reflection, though, I think a more proactive approach where you anticipate needs and try to make the group as supportive an environment from the outset is, of course, the better option. And I hope a session like this has helped you to be able to do that, folks.
Yeah, just to follow on from Josh's point, I think there are things you can do to design out barriers for people. So I don't know where you hold your meetings. Apologies, I'm not from the organisation, but so we would always say like having high contrast colours. So if say you were meeting in a church hall, for example, and the cups are all white, then you could just have a small supply of cups that are in a brighter colour. Because if you give me a white cup and it's on a white surface, you're going to be wearing it before you walk away from me, because I'll just catch it with my hand and it'll fly off. So whereas if it's a high contrast colour, I'm going to be more able to see where it is. So that you know, just even having a small amount of supplies that mean that when people arrive, it's not a big, oh no, we've only got white cups, so here you are, I'll hand it to you. And again, it's all about disempowering someone. You can be like, yeah, okay, the white cup doesn't work, we've got a bright blue one here, here it is. So you can design out some of those barriers, just as Josh said, preemptively. You might never use that blue cup, but it doesn't really matter, does it? It's going to cost you a couple of quid. So they're all things that you can do to help people feel more included when they first arrive.
Fantastic. And they're really quick wins, like you say, Amanda, isn't it? Really quick wins. It doesn't have to be thinking of changing and running the group in a completely different way, but these quick wins make a big difference, don't they?
Definitely. I always remember at Guide Dogs we were doing some work on a new building, and our technical teams were in, and they were on about beacons, and they'd be like flashing and beeping as you walk around the building so you know where you were. And then they spoke to our colleagues who are vision impaired, including me, and we were like, could we not just have like a different colour so that we know it's and they were like, so just different coloured paint, like, yeah. And could you not just put something on the lid of the bin so we know it's the recycling as opposed to the other bin? And they're like, so beacons on, and he goes, we don't want to disappoint you, but no. So sometimes the simple solutions are the best. You don't need to over design it. You can make it really straightforward. Don't overthink it.
Fantastic. Thank you all so much. I'm really sorry we're at time, so we're going to have to wrap it up. But thank you, Josh. Thank you, Laurie. And thank you, Amanda, for taking your time today to share your experiences and knowledge.
Thank you.
Well, what an incredible 2 days. Thank you all so much for joining. I can't believe we're nearly at the end. I hope your Wiltshire Farm Foods yellow notebook is full of lots of lovely ideas to try with your groups. However big, however small, it all makes a difference. I feel incredibly honoured, as always, being part of this event, to connect with you, to hear from you, to learn, and to feel really inspired about what we are all doing together. Thank you to every single speaker who has been involved in the event, and thank you for your energy and engagement, and obviously for all the time and effort you put in to running hundreds of groups, supporting thousands of people across the UK. You really do change lives. Now, to end with, I wanted to share a story about Neath Port Talbot Stroke Group in Wales. Juliet mentioned the group yesterday in her opening session, and they have been really successful by being awarded a £300,000 grant from the National Lottery. So they are going to be delivering a wellbeing project in collaboration with Neath Port Talbot Mind, so the local Mind organisation there. And it is the first service of its kind in the UK. It's going to be going for about 3 years, I think, with employing 6 staff that have joined this month. So what an incredible achievement. They are a large, lively group, have around 80 members. They have different activities each week. They do singing, African drumming, arts and crafts, seated yoga, quizzes, trips. And during lockdown, they realised that group members' mental health was declining. So they reached out to Mind and they delivered an 8-week counselling course over Zoom. And it was so successful that they wanted to try this with carers. But unfortunately, the funding wasn't available. And they really believed that actually carers of stroke survivors often need a lot of support. So they talked to Mind and they managed to craft a project over a couple of years. So it was a long time in the making, but they really feel it is a project that will absolutely benefit so many people in their area. They'll also signpost to other organisations, and there will be group therapies, courses, and lots of other things. So we're really excited to keep an eye on how that project goes and to hear updates. And you never know, at next year's conference, we might hear from the group to hear how that is progressing. So congratulations, Neath Port Talbot. And finally, today, before we log off and go for our lunch, I want to really end on a beautiful montage. This is, it sums up the spirit really of our Stroke Group Network. It is a moving collection of lots of moments across your groups, moments that you have kindly shared with us today. So please take a moment to sit back and recognise how incredibly wonderful you all are. And thank you and goodbye.